Meanwhile, let's go to Shabbos. Now, we have learned regarding the laws of Shabbos, we've spent a lot of time in the Shabbos kitchen, so people should have a good idea of the basics of the Shabbos kitchen. So meaning we've got a Kli Rishon, Kli Sheni, Kli Shlishi, so primary, secondary, and tertiary vessels, and how we're getting around in the kitchen. But apart from the kitchen, we've also done the topic of muktzeh. So muktzeh is the biggest topic within Shabbos, actually. So on things that are separated from us on Shabbos because they have no purpose on Shabbos, and thus we can't move them on Shabbos. Because if we could move them on Shabbos, then there wouldn't be such a distinction between Shabbos and the weekday. So, but these two topics we have covered in depth in the past. So let's break into some other topics. I thought we would spend some time on a topic that is often very misunderstood, and that is like a Shabbos Goy. So how are we supposed to deal with non-Jews on Shabbos? And we're going to see very quickly that the common perception that we can use a non-Jew for practically anything on Shabbos is entirely mistaken, and it has nothing to do with halakhic reality. And so that should itself serve as a lesson and a warning to us that in order to understand the Torah, we need to really learn it. Okay. So with that in mind, let's delve into Siman 244, chapter 244 of the Shulchan Aruch, and what type of work a non-Jew may do on behalf of a Jew on Shabbos. Okay, so, and it starts out, it says, where a person concludes, that is, arrives at an agreement, the Rama adds, with a non-Jew over work and stipulates the wages that the non-Jew is to receive, the non-Jew then works on his own behalf, and thus, even if he subsequently works on Shabbos, this is permitted. So we've stipulated wages before Shabbos. We've given the Gentile time to get the job done. How the Gentile organizes his or her time is his business then. So if he chooses to work on Shabbos, then that's his business. Okay, but this is only where he does the work out of public notice, so that not everyone is aware that the labor being done on Shabbos is for the Jew. If, however, it is widely known that it is the Jew's work, it is forbidden, since someone seeing the non-Jew at work will not know that the exact wages which the non-Jew is to receive for the job have been stipulated, and will think so-and-so the Jew has hired the non-Jew to perform work for him on Shabbos. Therefore, if a person arrives at an agreement with a non-Jew by which the non-Jew is obliged to build up his courtyard or wall or harvest his field for him, then if the job is within the Medina or its Tehom, okay, what is a Tehom? A Tehom is the Shabbos boundary. So we have we have 2,000 amas from the city limits to walk on Shabbos. Anything beyond that is beyond the Tchum Shabbos, is beyond the Shabbos boundary. Okay, so if the job is within the Medina, is within the city limits, let's say, sometimes called a Medina, or it's Techum, the Jew must not permit him to do work for him on Shabbos because of possible observers who will not know that he has so contracted. Okay. The Ramah, say we always have in the Shulchan Aruch two different opinions going simultaneously, meaning the Mechaber, the author, is Rabbi Yosef Karo, who is the Mechaber of the Shulchan Aruch, and yet we also have glosses, so additions by Rabbi Moshe Isulitz, who was from Warsaw, and he is definitive for the Ashkenazim. So what he is adding then is definitive for Ashkenazim, whereas what the Mechaber says is definitive for Sephardim if the Ramah says something different. Okay, so the Ramah here adds, even if one resides among non-Jews, one must bear in mind the possibility of guests who might be visiting or of one's own family who are liable to suspect him. Okay, so interesting point. Who is Maris Ayin for? So the appearance of doing something wrong. Here, the answer, according to the Ramah, would seem clear. Even if one resides among non-Jews, one must bear in mind the possibility of guests who might be visiting or of one's own family who are liable to suspect him. So, in other words, we have to be on guard about the appearance of doing something wrong, but it seems from what the Ramah is saying that is really only applicable to what Jews themselves are thinking. So even if we reside among non-Jews, then we have to bear in mind the possibility that a Jew might see us. There might be a guest in town or a member of one's own family. So it's for that reason that we've got to be careful. Not for the non-Jews. Okay. That idea does not hold universally, as we might see in other places. But for right now, that seems to be what the Ramah is saying. Okay, if the work is outside the Tchum, and in addition there is no other town within the Tchum of the work site, it is permitted. So because the non-Jew then is going to be doing the work outside the purview of any Jews, because nobody's going to go past the Tchum. And it's up to him, so where and how and when he organizes his work.
Okay. So it doesn't matter if it's visible from the Tchum, it's literally wherever that boundary line is, that's the key thing. If it was just literally a foot on the other side, that would be acceptable.
Okay, so the Mishnah Berurah adds, the same holds true if any Jew lives within the Tchum of the place of work. It is likewise forbidden. He should therefore order the non-Jew before Shabbos not to do it on Shabbos. Okay, now what hasn't become clear here, which I didn't really like, is that no construction whatsoever can be performed for a Jew on Shabbos. So if this is permanent construction, it can't be done. So here, the examples that the Mechaber gave early on were, if the non-Jew is obliged to build up his courtyard or wall or harvest his field, then the job is within, So, let's see, build up his courtyard or wall, even if it is located in a place where it is not widely known that it belongs to him, it is likewise forbidden, because one must be concerned about neighbors who know it is his and who will suspect that he hired him as a day worker. Okay, but all right, but my point right now is that in no case are we letting construction workers work on a house.
What if there's, can I ask a question?
Yes.
What if, something we were studying this past week, like one of the trenches to the cesspool, like is clogged so that you can't use it properly on Shabbos? Like, could you have a non-Jew do a repair on something that's like not functioning right? Because is that different than permanent construction?
Well, I mean, it would depend on whether the basic answer would be no. I mean, if this is going to represent some type of health or safety problem, then the answer would be yes. So, but what we're going to see is that really the non-Jew's actions are just an extension of yourself. He's just acting as your agent. So what you can't do on Shabbos, he can't do as well for you. Right? So.
Wait, do the health and safety purposes have to be urgent?
Yeah, but I mean, we don't want to put anybody at risk. So we're talking about a cesspool and sewage here. So we have this from Tractate Erevin, and so. Yeah, if it would pose any type of health risk, then that would outweigh any of these considerations.
Thank you.
Would it still be better for a non-Jew than a Jew to do it, or either one?
Yes, you always want to limit, in the case of pekuach nefesh, of saving a life, then you always want to limit the malachas that you're doing, the forbidden labors that you're doing. So Hatzala, for example, will drive to the site of the person that's in need of assistance, but they'll leave their cars running there. So and not take the cars back, for example. Or they have arrangements and have non-Jews coming to pick them up and maybe, depending on the circumstances, bring them back. But the idea is to really limit the malachas that you're doing in order to preserve life. But chas v'shalom, so God forbid that you should hesitate for 1 minute when a life is really threatened. So you need to, without thinking, do whatever is needed to get the person well, right, and out of danger.
Would an Orthodox Jew drive someone to the emergency room on Shabbos if it was life and death?
Yes. And without hesitation. So, pekuach nefesh is number one, and curse the rabbi who does not teach that. Right. So, right. Right. So we live by the mitzvahs, we don't die by them. Right.
That's a good way to put it.
Right. Okay. Okay, so for a non-Jew who brings a Jew's sheep into his field pen, see below. Okay. All right. So that was the first halacha in section 244, what type of work a non-Jew may do on behalf of a Jew. So what did we learn from this? That it is possible to conclude an agreement with a non-Jew before Shabbos, and stipulate the wages that the non-Jew is to receive, and then the non-Jew is working on his own behalf, and can, as long as he can organize the work as he wills, then it's okay. However, it seems that we've got to make sure that that the worker is out of public notice, because we don't want anybody to get the idea of impropriety, and so we can't assume that every Jew is baki in the laws of Hilchos Shabbos, knows all of the laws of Hilchos Shabbos, and is not going to suspect the Jew of doing something wrong. And so because of that, then the worker who's been hired before Shabbos, he has to work out of the public purview. Okay. And this is particularly true if the job is within the city limits or the Tachum, Shabbos, the Shabbos boundary. Once again, from the city limits, you've got 2,000 amas, which is an amma is equivalent to it's a little less than a yard, and you have 2,000 amas from the city limits to walk on Shabbos. And so if the job is within the city limits or it's Tachum, then the Jew must not permit him to do work for him on Shabbos because of possible observers who will not know that he has so contracted. That's the meat of the halacha here. So the Ramah then added that even if one resides among non-Jews, there's the possibility that there are Jews there, and so the same law applies. We don't want the non-Jew to be doing anything that's going to make the Jew suspicious or suspect of doing something wrong. Okay, if the work is outside the Tchum, then it's permitted. Okay. All right, so halacha base. Hewing stones and fashioning beams are forbidden to be done by a non-Jew, even in the non-Jew's house, since these jobs are for the sake of something attached to the ground. If such work was done, the stones and beams should not be used in any building. All right, so this is an absolute precept and something that is really difficult to enforce when you when you buy a house or an apartment and you're having that apartment renovated, then you have to make sure that absolutely no work is being performed there on Shabbos, right? Because the building or the apartment even are attached to the ground. So, in other words, these are permanent facilities. And
what if you live in a boat?
What if you lived in a boat on the water? Yeah.
No attaching the bowsprit on Shabbos.
Do we?
I mean, yeah.
It is a home, even though it's not technically the ground.
Actually, we're not obliged to put a mezuzah up anywhere in a boat.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Right.
So
For that reason, that it's not considered.
It's not a permanent home, I guess.
It's not considered a home, halakhically. Right.
So could you do construction on a boat then?
I'll have to look into it. So, okay. Okay, so yeah, if such work was done, with the stones and beams should not be used in any building. And we're going to see, but yeah, the work actually has to be reversed. Right, so, or if, yeah, and if retrospectively it's clear that work was done on Shabbos, then this building should not be used.
Wow.
This is major stuff.
Oh.
Right, and so, and it's very hard to enforce because the contractors then want to work on Saturdays, and so you really have to be tough to make sure that it doesn't happen.
If that did occur, where like the building was negated because they discovered that permanent work was done on a Shabbos, could the owner then sell it maybe to a non-Jew, or are you not allowed to derive benefit because it was done this way?
Right.
You couldn't derive benefit.
couldn't
So it's a
derive
total
benefit.
loss. You just got to bulldoze the building.
It's a total loss, right? And you bulldoze the building, exactly. Bill, you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Rabbi. I was just a little unclear on what we meant by work. We talked about stones and beams, but does work include everything needed to construct a house, like electrical, piping, things like this?
Yes. Yeah.
So all types of
Right. There can't
construction. Okay.
be. Yeah, can't be any construction going on here. So that's why I didn't like the initial example of to build up his courtyard, which the Mishnah Berurah doesn't explain. So build up his courtyard or wall. I mean, we're certainly not talking about putting any mortar in there to permanently build up the courtyard or wall. So that cannot be. Maybe stacking, so bricks or stacking pieces, but okay, harvest is field is another question.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So,
So does it matter if the field is within the 2,000 amos, or is what it matters is if the non-Jewish worker doing it, like, has his own schedule he's making, and it wasn't like the Jewish person ordered him to do it on Shabbos, but he just happens to be doing it on, like, is it acceptable under those circumstances? Either of those?
we said that that within the Medina, within the city limits or the Tchum, the Jew must not permit him to do work on Shabbos because of possible observers who will not know that he was so contracted.
But it could be outside the 2,000 amos.
Right. Okay, so we just said regarding, if such work was done, the stones and beams should not be used in any building. Now, the Ramah adds, some authorities hold that if it is not widely known that it belongs to a Jew, it is permitted. The Mishnah Berurah, so the Ramah and the Machaber, so Yosef Karo and Rabbi Yosef Karo and Rabbi Moshe Isserles were talking, so 16th century, and then the Mishnah Berurah here is 19th century, late 19th century. We actually have the initials of the Mishnah Berurah in an edition here in our shul. So, so some authorities, the Ramah says, hold that it is not widely known that it belongs to a Jew, that if it is not widely known that it belongs to a Jew, it is permitted. some hold that and then the Mishnah Berurah says, this variant opinion refers to all of the cases here. That is, even in the case of work on something actually attached to the ground, job contracting is forbidden only under ordinary circumstances. For most probably, this will be known as the Jews. Where, however, we know for a fact that the building is not widely known as the Jews, a job contracting agreement is not forbidden. The reason the Ramah cites this variant opinion in reference to a case of hewing stones for a building is that a case of actual construction, such a situation where the building is not widely known as the Jews would not be usual. All right, but okay, so now we're saying if the building is not known as the Jews, then a job contracting agreement is not forbidden according to the Mishnah Berurah. So where it is known as the Jews, then it would be forbidden.
Is that sort of saying that if the Jewish person is living there, it's a no-go, but if he's just getting it as an investment and maybe Jewish people don't even live there, like that's where you could sort of get away with it? Because if you're living there, it seems likely someone's going to figure it out at some point.
Well, here in Jersey City, where there is a lot of anti-Semitic talk about Jewish landlords, then I think we need to be on our toes. And certainly Hashem will reward us if we're towing the line. And some authorities hold that if it is not widely known that it belongs to a Jew, it is permitted. The Mishnah Berurah says, that is, one need not protest against the non-Jew doing his work on Shabbos, as long as he does not tell him to do it on Shabbos. All this, however, applies solely to the case where the non-Jew does it in his own house, or at least far removed from the building site, so that it is not recognized that it pertains to the Jew, as mentioned above. From many achronim, so from many later commentators, it appears that with respect to hewing stones, the halacha follows the view of this variant opinion, since this is merely for the sake of something attached to the ground. Possibly the Shulchan Aruch himself agrees with the Ramah in this. However, regarding that which is actually attached to the ground, one must not be lenient, even though the building is located in a place where people do not know that it belongs to him. For one must be concerned about one's neighbors or members of one's family who know it to be his and who will suspect him. All right, so there we have a further delineation. If we're talking about hewing stones and the non-Jew is doing it in his own house, then because these stones aren't being attached to the ground then, so on Shabbos, and nobody can see this, then even the Shulchan Aruch himself and the Ramah would agree with this, that it's okay. However, regarding that which is actually attached to the ground, we should never be lenient, even though the building is located in a place where people do not know that it belongs to him. For one must be concerned about one's neighbors or members of one's family who know it to be his and who will suspect him. So, and certainly, if we're lax in these things, even though we might think we're getting away with it, certainly in the end, we're not going to be getting away with anything, right? Okay. So, Halacha Gimel. If, contrary to the law, non-Jews construct a house for a Jew on Shabbos, it is proper to act stringently and not enter it. Forever, says the Mishnah Berurah, even for others. However, it is permitted to benefit from it and sell it to a non-Jew.
Oh.
All right.
I'm surprised, actually.
Right. I don't think that's the final word on things.
Oh.
The Ramah says, however, if the Jew stipulated with the non-Jew not to work for him on Shabbos, but the non-Jew did so against his wishes so as to finish his work sooner, one need not be concerned. Against his wishes. That is, he violated the stipulation made originally. Consequently, the Jew need not be concerned over this. That is, he must not even voice another protest when he does the work. So it may be gathered from the Mordechai and from Rabbeinu Yerocham, who are the source of this law cited in Beis Yosef below. So too does the Biur Hagra, the Vilna Gaon, imply. But see the Magen Avraham, who has strong reservations about this ruling. For since the work is being done on something attached to the ground, which is a matter of public knowledge, there will be suspicion by observers who will not be aware that he has stipulated such a condition. Similarly, the Eliyah Rabbah finds the ruling of the aforementioned Mordechai, the source for this opinion, difficult to comprehend. Therefore, one should not follow the lenient view in this case, says the Mishnah Berurah. Rather, one should see to it to express one's protest to the non-Jew and to restrain him from his activity. The Eliyah Rabbah writes, it would seem, however, that one need not pay non-Jews who work on Shabbos money to stop, since a stipulation was made originally to that effect and they consented to it. It may be implied from this quotation that if one did not make such a stipulation at the outset, his protest alone is not enough, but he must even freely spend money to get them to stop. The reason behind this ruling would appear to be his negligence. He should have made a stipulation at the start that they not work on Shabbos. As for the correct halakhic practice, Tzorak Ion, this requires further study. Okay. So these are, we're seeing some good workings of halacha here, how different opinions are brought down, how the halacha then is refined over time. So the Mechaber, Yosef Karo being the absolute basis, at least for the Sephardim, but generally for everybody, and the Ramah being the basis for the Ashkenazim. However, what they're saying in the Shulchan Aruch is not the definitive halacha l'maaseh, so practical halacha, right? So the practical halacha has developed further. So the Mishnah Berurah that we're reading here is really the main basis for practical halacha today, at least amongst Ashkenazim, but even the Mishnah, but even in some cases, the Mishnah Berurah is not only in some cases, but in many cases, the Mishnah Berurah is not the final word. Then we would be looking here in the United States to Rabbi Moshe Feinstein, for example, or in Israel to Rabbi Auerbach or Rabbi Elyashiv, Rabbi Chaim Kanievsky. These were the great poskim of the last generations, and their word is really the definitive word for us, because they paskined, they reasoned based on our circumstances, and so they have the insight as to what is best for us today. Okay, so that shows you the flexibility of halacha. Also, however, that it's a long line, right? That nobody is throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Rather, we're considering all sorts of halakhic precedent, and that nothing. So, ein chadash tachas hashemesh, that there's nothing new under the sun. We're certainly not just introducing ideas from left field. So, but we don't need to either, because everything is included in the Torah. and so we'll be able to find precedent somewhere in the Gemara, so for any idea. That's how we operate. Okay. Okay. So Halacha Daled, work in public, even on movable property, such as a boat, known to belong to a Jew, falls under the same rule as work done on something attached to the ground. There we go.
You ever notice that 5 minutes after I ask a question, we come across it in the text?
That's true.
It's
So,
some interesting coincidence.
right. So, Baruch that's you're thinking along halachic lines. This does not refer to a case, says the Mishnah Berurah, where he does the work on the Jew's premises. For in such an instance, even if the boat had the legal status of ordinary movable articles, it would also be forbidden. For it is evident from above that even concerning movable objects, if the work is being done in a Jew's house, it is forbidden. Rather, our case involves a situation where the work is being done removed from the Jew's premises. See the Magen Avraham and other Achronim, later commentators, where it is stated that this refers only to a case where the boat is being constructed in an exposed public area. Where, however, it is concealed from the public eye, one need not be stringent, as is clear from section 252 below.
Question. If a sailor, could be someone sitting at this table, is going on a long journey, it's not like just like a little hop, skip, and a jump, where crossing the Atlantic or something extensive, where you can't get to shore on Shabbos, it's not like, and it's a sailboat. Like, it's not like you could just like rig up ropes and the steering wheel is going to always just go straight. Like, you're going to have to do something with the sailboat, like based on, like, how can you avoid doing forbidden labors on Shabbos? Or does that just fall into the category of you're going to die if you don't do it, so you got to do it?
No, so there are laws about when you can take off for a journey. So really, everything until Wednesday of the week is from last week, from last Shabbos, and from Wednesday on, then we're talking this Shabbos. So really, you should board a vessel for a long journey before Wednesday. When you know that it's going to be that you're going to be traveling on Shabbos. So I mean
So they make allowances for that.
I mean it's it's
have
the
to.
way you have to. It's the way of the world. No? So. However, that's not to say that you could be tying any knots that needed to be tied. For example, if
So
you're
there's certain knots you couldn't tie on Shabbos.
right, they would all have to be like temporary knots. Or
Yeah, and I'm aware that there's some knots that are more permanent.
right. So we can, for instance, tie a bow tie, so a bow knot, not a bow tie, a bow knot on Shabbos. That's permissible because the whole idea of tying a bow knot is that it comes right out, right? However, we're not supposed to do that in public. We're not supposed to do that where other Jews can see us tying it.
Because they might not know the distinction.
Because they might not know the distinction, right? So, right. So for this reason, we would have a non-Jewish crew aboard that would be able to handle any malachas that needed to be done. And I mean, yeah.
Could they tie a permanent knot, or they should still do the unpermanent? Because they're an extension of you.
If the knot needed to be done for the proper operation of the boat, then I don't think.
So you might need a permanent knot in certain
right.
situations. Okay.
Okay, so yes. Okay. Halacha hey. So if someone hires a non-Jew for a year or two to write for him or to weave a garment for him, he may write or weave on Shabbos just as if he had contracted with him to write a book or weave a garment for him, in which case he may work at any time he chooses. This is provided that he does not make a reckoning with him on a day-to-day basis, and he does not do the work at the Jew's house. Some authorities, however, prohibit it if he hires the non-Jew for a set period of time, where in that case then it's going to be a foregone conclusion that he has to work on Shabbos, right? So here in the first case, not for a set amount of time, then it's okay because the non-Jew is arranging his time as he wishes, and even without Shabbos, he would be able to get the work done. If he decides to work on Shabbos, then it's okay. But but you get into problems if you're not leaving enough room for the non-Jew to do the work on Shabbos. Classic case is dry cleaning.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got to leave the dry cleaners enough time, so before or after Shabbos, to get the job done. Not that you're relying on them to work on Shabbos to get it done.
So you certainly can't bring it in on Friday, when that might very well be happening.
Friday morning, yeah, Friday noon maybe. I mean, nowadays they work very efficiently. So as long as you're giving them enough time that the job can be done, so not on Shabbos, then you're good. Even if you're pushing the envelope. Okay, so if someone hires a non-Jew for a year or two, we read, to write for him or to weave a garment for him. So the Mishnah Berurah comments the Magen Avraham. The Magen Avraham was, I guess, he was in the 18th century posek, so halakhic decisor, upon whom the Shulchan Aruch Harav, the Alter Rebbe, relied for most of his halakhic work, the Shulchan Aruch Harav. So the Alter Rebbe wrote his halakhic work, his halakhic code at age 22. So,
What was that?
the Alter Rebbe. So,
Got it.
so and that is a very, very well respected work. So the Mishnah Berurah, even though he might be of a different opinion regarding Hasidim, is citing the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch Harav frequently. Okay, so, and the point being here that the Alter Rebbe relied a lot on the Magen Avraham. Okay, the Magen Avraham writes that the Rambam, the source of this law, refers to the manner of lords who keep a special scribe or tailor who is obliged to write, etc., whenever the lord needs to have something written, but who may remain idle when he has no such need. He may therefore write or weave on Shabbos, since he is free to do the work whenever he so desires. For the Jew does not order him to do the work on Shabbos, and he has the opinion of doing the work, and he has the option, of doing the work another day. Also, the Jew has no profit from the fact that he works on Shabbos. If, however, he hires him to weave or write for him continuously during the course of the year, then even according to the Rambam, he is forbidden to write, etc., for him on Shabbos. For even though the Jew may not be exacting with him if he remains idle for a day from his job, nevertheless the Jew profits by his working on Shabbos. Okay, from the Taz, however, it appears that even in such a case, the Rambam considers it the same as any other job contracting agreement, since he is not exacting with him if he is idle any one day. However, if he insists that he not be idle from work for even one day, then according to all opinions it is forbidden, since this is tantamount to ordering him to work on Shabbos. The Taz, so the Shach and the Taz were 18th century commentators who argued back and forth, particularly in Hilchos Kashrus, so in the laws in dietary laws. So the Taz also writes that if he hires him to complete a book or a garment within a definite period of time, it is the same as being exacting with him over being idle for a day. But this is only if it is known to be impossible to complete the job without working on Shabbos as well. Even though he could conceivably complete it during the weekdays by forcing himself and staying up nights, nevertheless, this is as if he ordered him to do the work on Shabbos. The Pri Megadim, also early 18th century, thus explains the Taz's view and agrees with him as opposed to the Elia Rabbah. Okay, so the non-Jew needs plenty of time then to get the task done. And okay, if someone hires a non-Jew, okay, there we go, got that one. So the Ramah then adds to all of this, but this refers exclusively to a case where he hires him for a specific job, such as garment weaving or book writing. If, however, he hires him for all sorts of work which might be needed within the hiring period, it is in all views forbidden. And this is the Beis Yosef, and the Ramah is citing the Beis Yosef, as will be explained at the end of section 247. So this is kind of cute that the Ramah brings the Beis Yosef, which is Yosef Karo. So Yosef Karo, the Beis Yosef, it was a work that Rabbi Yosef Karo wrote as notes to the Shulchan Aruch that he wrote later. So the Beis Yosef gives all of the halakhic foundations. It traces a halacha from the Mishnah all the way up, so to present day commentators, present day for Yosef Karo, so being the 16th century, and the Beis Yosef is, like, for scholars, indispensable, because it really traces the foundations of all halacha. It's an amazing, amazing work. So these people were such giants. It's hard to really describe their intellectual production. I mean, absolutely amazing. It's just hard to think about their production outside of Ruach HaKodesh. So outside of really divine assistance. And they're not using search engines, and they have all of halacha before them up here, and are citing boom, 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 boom. Very, very impressive intellectually. So which we always have to bear in mind. These were intellectual giants. Yeah. And the more you understand halacha, the more you come to appreciate that. So what absolute giants these were. And so we need to appreciate that because that helps us with our emunah. We know that we can, that we're in a good space. So when there are people of the intellectual genius, so who are telling us that we should behave in this manner, then we can be confident that it's a good manner to behave in, and that we have absolutely nothing to worry about in vis-a-vis secular intellectuals, or there is no naivety here. There's no it's amazing. Okay, but the cute aspect here is that the Ramah then is citing Rabbi Caro's own work against him. So, citing the Beis Yosef against him, against the Mechaber. All right. And we said, but this refers exclusively to a case where he hires him for a specific job. And the Mishnah Berurah elaborates, he says, for in such a case it is possible that the Jew will not profit from the fact that the non-Jew is doing work on Shabbos, where the Jew will not need so much weaving or writing. If, however, he has hired him for all jobs, then it is almost certain that on a subsequent day he will need him for some other piece of work. And in that eventuality, the Jew will benefit from the fact that the non-Jew is doing work on Shabbos. Therefore, even if he does not make his reckoning with him on a daily basis, it is still forbidden.
So does that mean the shul gabbai should not be a non-Jew? A person
Shamish.
involved for the maintenance and stuff for the building?
Shamish, right. No, it means that the shamish should organize his maintenance work so that it doesn't fall on Shabbos. No. It's traditionally a position that a Jew fulfills. So. All right, so Halacha Vav. A Jew has acquired the right to collect taxes and hires out a non-Jew to collect the taxes on Shabbos. This is permitted if it is under a job contracting agreement. That is, if he promises him, when you collect 100 dinarim, I shall pay you such and such an amount. Okay, so and hires out a non-Jew. The use of the expression hires out, Hebrew maskir, is not precise, since the intended meaning is that he hire, Hebrew socher, a non-Jew. Okay, if it is under a job contracting agreement, for in such a case, the Mishnah Berurah says it is permitted as far as any actual violation of the law is concerned, just as skins given to a non-Jew for tanning are permitted to be given to him before sunset on Friday if it is under a job contracting agreement because he works on his own behalf. Now, even though in that situation of skins given for tanning, it is forbidden to schedule his work specifically for Shabbos, and besides, it is different in our case since it is a widely known affair, for it is well known that the tax collection enterprise belongs to a Jew, and it is therefore the same as if the non-Jew would be doing work at the Jew's house, which in that case of the skins would be forbidden. Nevertheless, in this situation, they permitted it due to the monetary loss involved. For a person becomes confused in the face of a potential loss of his money, and if he would not permit him to hire the non-Jew, he would collect the taxes himself and might come to violate a Torah prohibition. He might write out a record of the tax payment, as is usual for tax collectors. From this last clause, the Mishnah Berurah continues, it would appear that in the case of a tax that does not involve writing, as for example in cases where various sorts of foods are taken as a levy, it is forbidden to collect the taxes through a non-Jew, since the Jew would not be brought to violate a Torah prohibition even if we were not to permit him to hire the non-Jew. However, the Taz and the Magen Avraham conclude that even in such a case we permit the collection of taxes through a non-Jew because of the monetary loss involved. However, it is forbidden for the Jew to personally collect even a tax of various sorts of food, even if it has not been brought from outside the city's tichum, and no question arises concerning a violation of the labor of tzeda, trapping, or of the food having been attached to the ground at the beginning of Shabbos. This is forbidden on account of the prohibition of seeking your concerns, mimetzo chafetzcha, as written in section 306, according to the Elia Rabbah. All right. A Jew who has leased a salt distilling concession from a lord may hire workers under a job contracting agreement, stipulating with each worker that in return for the production of each specified amount of salt, he will be paid a certain amount of money. This is permitted even though the vessels and the wood fuel belong to the Jew. This is only as long as they do not take wood from the Jews' premises on Shabbos. For all job contracting with non-Jews is permitted only if everything that one intends to provide them for purposes of the work has been provided for them prior to Shabbos, and has also been removed from the Jews' premises before Shabbos. There can be, however, no permission to hire a non-Jew by the week or month, since the Jew will, after all, profit from his work. Therefore, so there is, therefore, no permissible way other than by job contracting, according to the Chaye Adam. All right. So, the Rama adds on this. Similarly, he may hire out the taxes of all the days of Shabbos of the year to a non-Jew, where the non-Jew will take the profit of the Shabbos days for himself. We do not concern ourselves with the possibility that it will be said he is doing it for the Jew, for in a case where loss of money is involved, such as this, the sages were not concerned about this. So I had a practical question with the Babka bailout, that they said they operate in various markets, and these markets require them to work 7 days. The markets require the stand to be open 7 days, and if you're not open 7 days, then they really kick you out. And these, like the Babka billets in Bryant Park. Okay, but based on this halacha right here, then there is a way to do this. So we just said, similarly, he may hire out the taxes of all the days of Shabbos of the year to a non-Jew, where the non-Jew will take the profit of the Shabbos days for himself, right? We do not concern ourselves with the possibility that it will be said he is doing it for the Jew, for in a case where loss of money is involved, such as this, the sages were not concerned about this. So generally, then you can go into a partnership with a non-Jew, and you can stipulate that all the profits from Shabbos will go to the non-Jew, and in exchange, the Jew will receive the profit, all of the profits for another day. And because the prohibition is really profiting, which means that if some of the revenue from Shabbos is used to pay expenses, even that's allowed because it's not profiting. Okay, in the case of the Babka bailout, then I had two considerations which helped me be comfortable with this decision. One was that none of the production was being done on Shabbos, that the bakery itself is closed. So and so really what's going on is that a non-Jew is selling the baked goods for her own account on Shabbos, which isn't such a big deal.
Just like you told us one day that there are these places that are restaurants, but for Shabbos they already pay before Shabbos.
Right.
They only have the food ready there, and they just go there and pick it up. It's kind of like that in a sense.
Or they're eating it there.
And eat it there, like
Right.
yeah, because the non-Jew buy it everything before Shabbos.
Because the Jew bought everything before.
Yeah, but I mean, like, non-Jew bought everything before Shabbos.
Right.
He's just giving whatever is.
Right. Nothing's being prepared on Shabbos, and you have supervisors there that are checking.
Good.
So one consideration was that no production was being made. The second consideration was the hefsed meruba, the potential great loss, because it would be completely disproportionate if then they had to give up this huge source of revenue. But they're in Bryant Park, which is very prestigious and
A lot of people.
Where's
right,
that?
and tons of people. So
West Side around 45th or something like that. 54th.
right,
The ice skating place over there. Ice skating.
Ice skating, I think, is a rink in Central Park.
No, they have it too in Brian.
They have it too,
Yeah,
right.
yeah. I used to work over there too, so it was nice over there. It's really nice.
okay. So then the babka bailout is their stand is open on Shabbos over there. For this reason, I've had calls about this.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Baruch Hashem. So I get a lot of calls about the kashrus, and so it's great that people check and care.
Is that a non-Jewish person
And-
at the stand?
Yeah, it's a non-Jewish person at the stand.
Nice.
Do you get into trouble if you have Jews who are not necessarily religious buying the product on Shabbat?
Right, but they're not buying it because it's kosher or something. No. I mean,
Yeah.
that's
There's-
we can't. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I guess it's better that they're buying it and then it's kosher. No.
Certainly for their sake.
Sneaking it in there, right?
Reducing the amount of for the sake of the life. Reducing the amount of things.
Right.
Because they have to. I would be that way.
Okay. But yeah, actually, that is the next section. So how a Jew as a non-Jewish partner should act, how a Jew who has a non-Jewish partner should act with respect to Shabbos. So we'll see those in detail. Okay, so let's finish out what the Ramah says. He says, a Jew who is in charge of the royal coinage has the same law applied to him as one who is in charge of taxes, even though there will be noise on Shabbos caused by the process of coinage. But the Jew should be careful not to sit beside the non-Jew on Shabbos while he is engaged in his work of coinage or collecting taxes. Okay, let's see what the Mishnah Berurah has to say about this. Has the same laws, etc. Therefore, because of the loss involved, it is permissible to give the non-Jew the silver while it is yet day before Shabbos begins under a job contracting agreement, with a stipulation that if he makes a certain amount of money for him from the silver, he will give him such and such an amount in return. Or alternatively, that the Jew lease the profit that will result from this on Shabbos to the non-Jew, as mentioned above. Right? So either you can make it like a straight job contracting agreement that he has to produce so much, so that you're not saying that this has to be done on Shabbos, or that you are exchanging the profit on Shabbos for another day. Okay. And the Jew should not sit, neither the one who has leased it out nor his agent should sit there. The Taz writes, it is prohibited to sit there only where the purpose is to observe the nature of the dealings conducted by the non-Jew and to receive a pertinent reckoning from him on these dealings the following day. This is forbidden because of mimetzo chafsecha, so seeking your concerns. In other words, once Shabbos comes in, then we need to take our mind off our weekday concerns. And so anything that is going to keep us rooted in the weekday, we can forget about, right? So that's why there is a rabbinical there are rabbinical considerations that have to do with uvdei dechol, so which is like weekday affairs, right? And even though this isn't brought down in the Torah itself, these are rabbinical prohibitions that are going to keep us from keeping our heads in the weekdays. Now, there is a lot of leeway on these types of things. So, for example, if you enjoy reading a newspaper, so in the olden days when there were really printed newspapers, right? So if you enjoy reading a newspaper and that is going to contribute to your oneg Shabbos, to your enjoyment of Shabbos, then it's okay to read the newspaper. After a while, hopefully, then you'll come to a point where you don't want to be attached to the weekday at all, and you want to leave all of those cares behind, and so you're not going to be reading the newspaper. But there is a wide spectrum of possibility there, right? As there is in all halacha, which should be one of the lessons that we're seeing here.
Can you read other materials like novels?
Yes, right, but
not too much.
But ditto novels. So as a matter of fact, you can learn anything on Shabbos, right? And you can learn anything on Shabbos, even let's say if you're a student and it's your homework or you have a test coming, as long as you're not writing anything down, then you are allowed to study for your test. So, brain activity is prized.
Can you underline sentences in the book?
No.
No writing.
Absolutely
Okay.
no writing. No writing.
No. Please.
No.
Right.
You told us that because you say that it was because we are in pro of intellectual activities or something like that.
Right.
Yeah, intellectual studies.
Right. So, I mean, after a while, then you define your own priorities. And so, for me, is there a choice between reading a Rishon or reading a modern novel or something? Yeah, no, absolutely not. So I would rather spend my time learning the Rishon. So, not everyone agrees. Okay, so we'll leave it there. So we should have the feeling now that the idea that there is a Shabbos Goy to whom you can just assign any menial task on Shabbos does not at all correspond to halakhic reality. That it's very, very restricted what you can give to a non-Jew, and we're going to see this in even more detail regarding like possible needs that we might have, heating on Shabbos, or that's what you were getting at before. So what can we get a non-Jew to do? And so we'll delve into that question more next time.
Before we end, I have a small little kosher question. So, in keeping with your directives, 2 days ago, I had 3 sets of dishes. One was from my first marriage, and the other 2 were from my mother. One of them being actually from her mother. But they had been used, at least 2 of the sets had certainly been used for non-kosher things over the years, and the third one they had only been used once or twice, but I just wasn't sure. In any event, you had instructed me that they couldn't go to Jewish relatives, like like son or something like that, because you always want to hold out the hope that they may ascend to be more observant, and this would lock them in to something less. So I gave them away to my non-Jewish nieces or my nieces through my marriage to my Chinese wife that has now ended. And like I gave it to them because those aren't Jewish families, although they're sort of my family, but they're not Jewish. So then they got it out. I've got 3 new sets of dishes and silverware and everything to go for the good stuff. And here's the question. Like, so I'm parting with all these dishes, which some of them I didn't want to part with, but I was happy to do the right thing here. And I felt...
But in the end, I said that, yeah, just leave them in the boxes and the side for now. No?
I'm happy that I did what I did, because
Okay.
it's with family, but I'm not going to, like, put a lower ceiling on my son's future. Like, I didn't want to do that. And so then we had these trays that you put fruit in. They weren't really dishes that you eat out of with kosher or not. They were like fruit dishes, or you put nuts or fruit. I don't know what else you would put in these. Like, they're serving dishes, but the serving dishes that are all designed for fruit or nuts. Like, again, I don't know. It's not for serving food that's cooked. It's for. And so I said, wait a second, let me hold on to those and ask the rabbi, because something told me like maybe those go into a different category, because they never were used for food. They were just for fruit or for nuts or something like that. So that's the question. If you have containers that have been around for generations, or some of them were longer than, but they've only been used for fruit, like put apples in and stuff. Can I keep those?
Probably.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to see them or to understand more what this has been. Yeah.
Thank you.
Do you have to?
Have you got into the toiling yet?
That's
Well-
very big question.
I guess I was waiting for the mikveh to open up downstairs here, but
No.
No, you're gonna make a trip out to Passaic.
okay then.
Say there's a big one for dishes?
Oh
Oh,
yeah.
I didn't know.
When you get to
beautiful.
aisle 1, you just say, whatever, you put it in Google and it'll tell you how to get there. Because it's literally just around the corner.
Aisle 1?
Yeah,
Oh, really?
it's
Well,
really
not
close.
right around the corner. It's about
It's close
6
by.
blocks.
5 minutes away.
Oh, really? Oh, that's perfect. Because I thought I have to go to
Rabbi,
Chelsea.
Yes.
my phone is getting ready to die.
Okay. So thank you for
Thank
coming,
you so
Jerry.
much.
Hey Jerry,
See you in the morning, okay?
Yes.
We
Good.
look forward to it.
Chris.
It's great.
Yes,
Yeah,
indeed.
tomorrow-
Are you coming tomorrow, Jacob?
I'm off of work. I have a crazy musician job tomorrow, but I probably
Okay. Thank you,
These are
Julia.
ordinary
Thank
gifts.
you, everybody, for
you.
coming.
Bye,
What time?
Thank you, Rabbi.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Somewhere around 9:30.
Thank you, Karen.